Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And hello, everybody. So glad to be here again with you. We have the amazing Stephen Machat here with us, my dear friend. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
You got this Sedona sunshine on your cheeks.
Right. My whole head got burned up. They said, keep your hat on. I'm like, no, I want to take it off. My head started melting. So, but yeah, no, I'm feeling good.
You got the Indian cheeks.
Yes, I do. You're right. You're right. So you've got a lot going on. We're looking forward to sharing today, having you share about your new book, The Colonization of Earth, The Making of Mankind. So I'll just go ahead and show everybody.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, we both have it. Okay.
Game for a match. It's like that old game.
Don't buy one, buy two. Okay. So I've been, I don't get a chance to, I don't usually always read all the books, for that people come on the show with. And I really, I just say, I just start off before we formally just kind of dive in. I just want to say, there's been a connection for me and Stephen, and I really got into everything with his book and it's just so fascinating. And I think that, this is not something I normally would do necessarily on this show, but it's really profound to waking people up and understanding what's really going on. But before we dive in and jump right into all that, I want to just share a little bit about Stephen if people don't know who you are. So Stephen Machat is an American entertainment attorney, a film producer, the author of 5 books and more to come, a music publisher, manager of entertainment talent, as well as the owner of Grammy-nominated record labels. He has also taught and lectured at such prestigious universities as Oxford and Cambridge in England, and at music festivals and book fairs in more than 100 countries. Stephen was a 2018 Democratic candidate seeking election to the U.S. House to represent the 26th Congressional District of Florida, and a 2016 independent candidate who sought election to the U.S. Senate from Florida. Stephen represented many artists and has been part of production of movies, etc., including Judge Dredd, but also he's helped to represent ELO in a huge way, Electric Light Orchestra, Genesis, Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins, Ready for the World, Leonard Cohen, Phil Spector, Stacey Jackson, Snoop Dogg, New Edition, and Bobby Brown, and many more. So we're just really honored to have you here, Stephen.
You're hired. You did that good.
Okay, all right. So awesome. So yeah, let's jump in, and I'm just gonna say, I've read the book. I'm totally into it. Totally resonates for me overall. The overall thing, and so I'm not gonna try to describe the book. I'm just let you dive in. What is this book all about? What, the colonization of Earth, the making of mankind? What's this all about?
I'll show.
Stephen's here on video showing us something. So for those,
I wrote this book.
This book here, what's it called now?
It's The Highways of Man.
Highways of Man. Okay, so he's
Okay, The Highways of Man. What I did is, I don't see things the way people do. I live in a metaphysical world. My life has been to figure out why you do what you do, but also at the same time, I play a game to make you do things that you may not want to do. I did that hopefully to create a better world by producing music and movies. I was trained to understand what I call wrong behavior, capitalism. Capitalism, right? What is it? Well, we're taught it's what made America great, but that's not true. Capitalism was first used as a word in 1854 in a German book that came out that year. We say that Adam Smith created capitalism, but that's not true. Adam Smith wrote a book called Wealth of Nations, which was an offshoot of his book called The Moral Sentiments. and Moral Sentiments in that book, he teaches that you are part of what the wealth of a nation is. You, me, and everyone that's part of that nation. The people are the wealth of a nation. The people make a nation work. It's not bankers, it's the people. And if you have people excited and interested and involved, this is what you do. You become a better nation. But the problem is when this goes on, for some reason, instead of being independent networks where we make each other great, instead of all of us trying to play each position and sharing that position, we all move, instead of to baseball, we move to football. We get a quarterback, the quarterback works for central government, and that central government tells you what to do and how to do it, which is the exact opposite of what made us great. We live in a world and we're here to create. The game of life is teamwork. The game of life is not to worship some king or some queen and to have some imperial religion telling you that it's okay for me to kill you. And at the same time telling you it's okay to kill me for you. It's wrong. So I spent 50 years trying to figure out why that happens. And when I wrote this book, I realized I was missing mankind's history until 500 BC. Because everything I've read, there was something wrong. And in 1968, a book came out called The Chariots of the Gods. I was all of 15 years old in school, and I read that book and I was screwed. Because all of a sudden I knew why I was here. I was here to remember what that story was. I've lived in over 100 countries. I've produced music all over the world, music, movies. I've been fortunate enough that I've traveled. And what I'm hoping you do with me is set up these Sacred School of Knowledge tours where we bring people to the locations and explain to these people how those pyramids were made. Not only in Egypt, even in Bosnia, there's Bosnia pyramids. What is this? What are these pyramids in Mexico? What are the pyramids in Peru? What are these temples that exist in Bolivia and Lake Titicaca? What is this gold door that says if you get beyond it, you could bend space and time and travel intergalactically? And I'm not a dreamer, I'm a realist. There's something we don't know. And my whole purpose is to give it to you. So what I did is I've read all these scriptures that are around. I read the cuneiforms that exist all over our planet, and that the Vatican didn't burn in 392 AD. And the Vatican didn't burn when they landed in Mexico or Peru, when these priests went there with the instructions to burn anything and everything that contradicts our version of Christ. And I came up with this book. So what I did is I wrote the book as an opera, a play, because I'm giving you information that it's going to be hard for you to understand when you first read, because you're not going to want to accept it. It's like, hey, what is this guy telling me? That we were created from another planet? Yeah. We're the first species on this earth to have a consciousness that is able to speak, that is able to interpret what is so spoken, and is able to make plans for the future and understand their past. Other species on this earth do have consciousness, and they do sing to each other. They do it through, plants speak to each other. And I'm not crazy. If you don't get it, you're crazy. That's how we communicate. Vibrations. You and I are vibrations. When you go to school and you learn physics, you are all of a sudden toward quantum physics. You're two things. You're a solid, but yet you're the particles. The particles is the metaphysical truths of life. The substance is the physical truth of life. You're raised to believe in substance. You're taught, if you can't see, touch, feel, hear it, or taste it, it doesn't exist. But then you ask these geniuses, these scientific fools, who only believe what they can see, touch, taste, feel, or hear. Well, do you love your lover? And then you ask them, how can you prove you love your lover? They can't. Give me scientific, physical knowledge you love that person. Life is love. On earth, we've made it a sentence. And this virus that's hit us, when you study history, you'll find that whenever mankind changes Earth, a virus hits us. When mankind introduced seeds and grains that never were here before, and miraculously we call it the New Age period, 13,000 years ago, in what's called the Levant, where Egypt and the Middle East meet. How did where did we get these nuts? Where did we get these oaks? What is this? You'll also find that viruses started coming then, and they started eating the substances of man. That's why I wrote this book. I explained to you all the unexplainable. It's all here.
Right.
And I dedicated this to the God that created all. I believe if you don't see God in all, then you don't see God at all. And we don't live by that. So therefore, what God do we really work for? My goal is to make people blink. You don't need to believe me, but you need to hear me, because I will open up your heart. I saw it when I was speaking to you, because you heard my tune. My tune's not Stephen's tune. My tune is eternal and ethereal love, forever and evermore. You know, when you get married, you say to someone, I will love you forever. But how about evermore? You're not taught that. And are you capable of that? That's the gift in life, to learn evermore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in this book, The Colonization of Earth and the Making of Mankind, the reason for me, okay, as a reader, these are some of the ideas, quite frankly, are completely new. I mean, it's not like I've never heard these things before for me, but for some people it will be. I've never heard these things before. But for me, I was like, okay, yeah, I've heard this stuff about, so you talk about, and then for our listeners, I don't think it's that crazy either, actually, for our listeners. But like, okay, these beings from another planet have come here and colonized the planet. I don't want to say it wrong, but the Anunnaki, right? There's different pronunciations, maybe. The Anunnaki came and created all this.
If I could just correct you there, here's the game. Ready? So they came from a planet called Nibiru.
Right. Mm-hmm.
These are their words. They were called the Nefilim, Nefilim.
Mm-hmm.
According to the way we translate the scriptures, they left here. They called the space travelers to Earth, like we called the space travelers to Moon, Apollo. Mm-hmm. They called those space travelers Anuki. A-N-U stands for the king. Mm-hmm. And I believe Nibiru was a one world organization, which is what our Earth is trying to do to us again. Mm-hmm. So Anu was the king at that time, and the Ki stood for Earthling. So when you see their names, it's Ki. It's really interesting. And if you can, this book marries history. That's what I did that no one did before. I'm a historian. I love history. You tell me where you are, I'll tell you a story what happened where you are. I can't stop.
It's your thing. It's your jam. Part of your jam anyway. Absolutely. So yeah, tell us. I mean, they have to get the book you have to get the book to read the story, to learn the story. But from my understanding from the book, is these come from ancient texts,
manuscripts.
Yeah.
Make believe this is a rock, piece of clay. Mm-hmm. There's inscriptions in all of them. Mm-hmm. And when Napoleon went to Egypt, he went there knowing what was going on. He was looking for information. Napoleon found a stone, the Rosary Stone. The Rosary Stone had 3 languages on it. Everything was written in 3s. Because it was Greek, they were able to translate the other 2 languages. Again, the Vatican, with knowledge, burnt down all the books and records that were kept, explaining everything that I'm telling you. Everything. So only a few pieces survived, be it Cicero, be it, all those earlier philosophers who were explaining things, be it Socrates, he survived. You learned that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, there were many more. They were all part of the school of sacred knowledge. which was the Elysian Fields in Greece, where these people went to learn the truths of life, as opposed to living under the spell and having to go to the temples to make sacrifices to these gods. And isn't it interesting that all these sacrifices required blood? Why did a real God, the God of all, need anyone's blood? The real sacrifices you would give to this real God is you would give him flowers of love. These perfumes, the fragrances that make you feel and taste love. Why would you give him some dead carcass? You need to understand.
It makes sense. And there's a lot of that in this book where, for me, as I was reading it, I'm like, now it makes sense. All this crazy stuff that I read in the Bible, it makes sense. They're not worshiping God, source energy, as I might call it too. But like they're worshiping a God in these key or these these beings that came here and actually created us, right? So
created us, made us. They made us out of a petri dish. But saying that, and you get this, for somehow they may have physically made us, and our body, our DNA is structured that if I push your button and I make you fearful, we become beasts. We kill each other. But we have three. I'm looking at your throat, your mouth, and your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
We have three chakras that are basically the angels that we were meant to be. We're a consciousness. Our consciousness is locked in this body, sort of. Because the truth is, your body has your consciousness inside and outside, and that's your auric field. But if you don't understand what I'm saying, you are weak, and you will be susceptible to disease, you'll be susceptible to fear, and you will become the beast that will be totally survived for survival. Because all beasts need to do is eat, I'll use the word, I was a goner, but eat, shit, and reproduce. And then go to sleep to get the energy to get up and do it again. Life on Earth is predatory. We have to eat other life, or we can't move our parts. Then we have partners called plants who sit there and they take the water, and what they do is they crystallize the water with carbon dioxide and they make glucose. And that glucose is in their fruits and that glucose is in their plants. So when we, mankind or other animals, eat the fruits or eat the plants, we're getting the glucose that they made for us. It may be in different sugary forms, but everything you eat becomes glucose. And then what we do is we eat it. We inhale the oxygen that they create, the plants create. We exhale carbon dioxide, and the parts of the glucose predecessor that we don't need, we give back to Earth. It's a revolving game. And when we die, we become food for Earth. Our body, when we die, is still alive. What it does is it deprograms and decomposes itself and goes back to Earth, like a leaf on a tree.
Mm-hmm.
That's the circle of physical life. And the game of conscious life is we're here for a reason. We're here to learn and understand love. What is love? Will you sacrifice love for your physical wants and needs? Or can I make you an animal, make you a beast? That's been the battle of my life. And in my book, Gods and Gangsters, I tell you what I did playing the game. But I always believed the artist I worked with would do more. I thought that they really believed in everything I would be saying to them. I felt like this since day one. I have a new book coming out next week. It's called The Making of Oz, The Creation of Oz Through the Altars of Their Black Sabbath. And what I do is I give you the stories of myths. I tell you the story of Osiris, Isis, and Typhoon. And that's the myth of the creation of the Christ God with his Mary and their son. That son was Horus, but our son is Jesus, who, when you drink the blood and eat the flesh, hocus pocus becomes Christ? Are you kidding me? But when you really study history, whoever that spirit was that we call Jesus was the first spirit ever to have it written down that mankind is here in love. He told you the secrets of love. Love one another, support each other. Not what these vultures got us doing, where we sit and we dig for gold. We sit and we have a nation right now that sits there telling you we can't create the test strips for the virus that we created because who's going to pay for it? When you print the money to pay for it? This book gives you the answers of why gold is so valuable. Because those space invaders who landed on Earth that we call Anunnakis came here to get the gold. And the book you read marries their desire for gold and other minerals to mankind's history on Earth. You will read that 300,000 years ago, in any book, mankind appeared. All of a sudden, apes were able to go make drawings in the caves in South Africa. What were they doing there? Then you'll still read and you learn about the Neanderthal man and the Cro-Magnon man and the pro this. And it's like, what are they telling you? They're not telling you where it all came from. I tell you how the laws were created. I give you all these answers that I've spent my whole life looking for. And I only pray that people hear me and just say, wait a minute. I may not believe Machat, but there's something there. And he's ringing my bells. Why do we believe in this? In my new book, I tell you how the Catholic Church created witches and why they did it. They did it when the printing press came to Europe. They didn't want anyone reading these stories because only fatherland, the Father, the Christ creates life. But the real truth is you and I and everyone listening or watching were created by a goddess. We came out of a womb. The Milky Way above us is a womb. It's where all dust is collected and it spits out as a planet or it spits out as a star. I could go on and on so directly.
Right. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were the one that came in and says, we're all stars. See, there's, you're 5-pointed stars. Can't you see that? And I remember that when I met you in person. And
I mean, look at you. You've got a head. You've got your 2 arms. You got your 2 legs. You're a 5-point star.
Yeah.
And that's why we use a 5-point star in our American flag. We were supposed to be the stars of the world. We were the ones that had in our Declaration of Independence to create a nation for life, liberty, and for all of us to be able to pursue happiness. 13 years later became life, liberty, and the protection of property. Whose property? Maybe you don't want to own property. You can't. You can't take Earth with you. And if you read our Constitution, none of us do. The government has first call on it. And we forget the government is us. And the people who work for the government forget that they work for us. They work for a government. The whole thing's sickening. I don't care if you like Donald Trump or dislike Donald Trump. They're all criminals. You know, in the book that I'm finishing right now, I give you the history of viruses throughout the history. And I tell you what they do. And the virus's job is to succeed by keeping its host alive. The game with the virus is they mutate until they can become herd. This virus is killing people, but it will figure out how to stay alive. And we'll help it because we're going to have a vaccination where we put it inside our bodies. This virus wants in. And what a virus does is it reorganizes your RNA, which tells your body, it's the messenger on how to build your enzymes and your proteins and your cell membranes. My new book is fascinating and it helped me make new conclusions.
Awesome. I can't wait to see that one as well. And which book is that one?
It's going to be coming out soon. It's the Book of Viruses.
The Book of Viruses. Okay, great.
And what it does to mankind as a group and how you as an individual can prevent The
Wow.
usurpation of your DNA.
Wow, that's a must. And then this colonization of Earth, the making of mankind. I mean, what I wanted to talk about that again is from my reading of the book is we're basically created as slaves, right? And
Oh,
so
slaves as servants. So basically the same.
yeah, yeah, servants, slaves, and so
By the
that's
way,
something that's I
the
think it's
SS.
important foundationally understand that that's part of the consciousness that was put into creating us. But like you're saying, we've been created from love, so no matter what they do, we still are what we are at a
Yeah.
deeper level, right? So, but it's interesting to know that, and then because when people are with all the truths and things that may be conspiracy theories or whatever, it's that word is probably not the right word, but
You know what
untruth.
the word conspiracy means? It
Yeah, what does it
means
mean?
it means two or more.
Two or more.
So the the rulers don't like when two or more people get together.
Yeah.
Because when you have three, someone will question. That's what we do. So they used to like to keep meetings to two or under, unless you went to the church where they could watch and snitch on you. Because if you question those rules, you too would end up on the cross. Because Jesus didn't die for your sins. No, Jesus died, and you too will die if you have the sin to question these rules. Remember, Jesus took on the priest, and he took on the rabbinical lawyers of that era. And if you believe those stories, was killed by the Romans, who made a Pink Floyd song before anyone else did called Us and Them. So the Romans needed to have someone that did it because it can't be us. So it was them. And they created this worldly concept today that we call Jewry, when there was no J in any language. J never existed. That was added to the Latin languages in the basically the 1200s. It's fascinating when you study history and you see all the games people play, another song.
Yeah. 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 I mean, getting back into the book, I mean, is, I mean, basically my reading of it again is that you're saying that there are those that came here, and then you talk about was it Marduk? Is that how you pronounce it?
Marduk, yep.
Yeah, Marduk was the one that ultimately was like said you was told. I mean, is that you have to stay here. You're banished to this planet almost. What it sounded like you're stuck here. And then he was running these he or she, I don't know, but like he was running these games, right? So control and fear and domination or whatever, and then that got infused into the leadership. Like the leadership was created to control everybody from that. So you can talk about it better than I do, but I wanted to bring that out because that's so important, because people wonder, like, how did all this get created? Because there was civilizations along the way that didn't live the way we live now. You know, you talk about the Native American Indians, you talk about ancient cultures, you know, and
They
we
escaped.
didn't have all this control systems. People just lived in communities and peace and harmony, truly, and they still exist in small little pockets on the planet. But you know,
They
we gave
lived
our
in.
power away to these
The
entities, and they.
key is: are you federated network or central authority? Central authority is what they brought. When you get freed from central authority, you become a network. You become a group that shares information so the community can survive and thrive. As a central organization, you feed that organization. And who are you? You're nothing but a number. So real quickly, so when King Anu came here to get the gold under his regime, he had two sons. One's name was Enlil, Enlil. The other's name was Enki, Enki. Okay? So Enlil was the successor to the crown because he came from the right mother. You needed a right bloodline. Aniki was different. Aniki came from another mother, but he was the oldest son. So there you have your first fairy tales where the oldest son is not allowed to become the king. But this eldest son was the scientist. He's the creator of mankind. He came to Earth, and what he did was he created us earthlings, but he also made it a situation where he could make the lifestyle they needed so we could all survive. Enlil, the second son, but the first son in the line of succession, was in control of the command of Earth. He came to Earth knowing he was going to go home and rule Nibiru when the time came. Aniki then made a son with another woman. That son's name was Marduk. Marduk was upset that his grandfather, he could never have that title. So Marduk was promised that he could rule Earth. What Marduk did is he married an earthling that was created by Aniki's sister out of her womb. And what he did is he felt since that was the seed, the egg, he was entitled to it. And what he did was he sat here and he fought Enlil, Enlil. Enlil, without giving away the whole story, is the Hebrew Islamic God. Marduk is the Christ God. Marduk's game was to keep everyone out of control, to keep all different divisions. So only he and his retinue would understand what people are doing. And they all reported to him. It's a fascinating story. And if this thing didn't happen or shut down now, we were putting together the rock opera to put this play out. Because as you read, there's music throughout that whole book. Different songs, different everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's seven episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm going to end up on Netflix with it.
Oh, wonderful. That's awesome.
And as I told you earlier, I'm finishing my Russian movie, which is the Battle of Stalingrad. And as I did the movie, our life is an onion, and you peel it off, you find out the truth. The Third Reich, Hitler's Reich, we call it Hitler's, which it wasn't. Hitler was just a quarterback. Someone was pulling his strings. And who were they? I mean, who was the First Reich? The First Reich was the Vatican with the different provinces of what we call Central Europe, who also appointed the King of England and the King of France in conformance with his alleged gift from Constantine, that Constantine said the Pope will pick the proper family lines that could rule land, and I, the Pope, am your exclusive conduit to God. I and my bishops and cardinals, who are the only ones that could ever learn how to read in the dark ages I'm now imposing, will speak to God for you. You need to have faith. You don't need knowledge. They ran the dark ages. It's all Marduk. And you know, the other thing is I worked with Stan Lee. I've worked with a lot of creators. You said Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd's a cartoon. A lot of these science fiction writers know this book. They don't know it in the timeline I put it together, because that's where I'm different than all of them, because it questions everything, and people are scared. People are scared to say what I'm about to tell you. If there's a God that rules our earth that we have to pray to, kiss that God's ass and ask that God to forgive us for the sins we commit, when the God is supposed to be our Father and no father does that, you don't need to worship under him. You don't need to put a hat on your head so you don't get all the information. I mean, I'm a father. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my children. Nothing. That's a bad father. I want to go back to the only father. My goal is when I leave here, I could sit and look whatever energy it is in our electronic eyes and say, I did what I said I would do. I tried to wake people up.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Do you know what amen means?
You would know.
Yeah. It means again.
Again. Oh,
Amen.
wow.
Amen. Again. Again.
Again,
Right?
again.
That's outrageous, right?
I love it. I never quit learning around Stephen. That's one of the things I love about Stephen.
And if
So,
I don't know, I'll ask. I want to know everything. I'm in
that's
church. I want to know everything. Which is
amazing.
why right now under whatever you want to call it, I'm here with Debbie, my high priestess, and
Mhm.
we're writing. I can't stop writing.
Yeah, you've written how many books? You said I talked to you one day. You're like, yeah, I just wrote 2 books, and I was just like that, and
Yeah, right?
you're
It's
just
cool.
pumping out those books. That's amazing. You've got so much to share. That's what you ought to be doing. That's what I want to say. So the colonization of Earth, the making of mankind. It's going to tell you about all we've been talking about. A lot of what we've been talking about anyway. We got on a few other subjects with everything going on, and I just found this book to be very riveting and fascinating and deep for me, and very helpful in my orientation towards what's happening right now. What's happening right now in the world? Why is this happening? I feel like it gives you a perspective on your entire life and where we're at right now. No matter if you grew up as a Catholic church or wherever, it just helps you to understand like where's all this coming from. Stephen's the guy that's here to share that with us, to show us this is what's been going on. This is how we got here, and so I definitely highly recommend you get the book, Colonization of Earth and the Making of Mankind.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, anything else you want to share today?
No, nothing. The other thing I will share with your listeners is you need to hear this. They cannot guarantee your safety from the virus. A virus attacks and it will find the place to live so it can get the glucose. A virus will get into your body and go to your weakest spots. I don't place blame, but when this virus hit, they didn't understand it. They thought it was respiratory. So they thought it was your lungs. No. So they put these people on ventilators and it probably killed a lot of them. They then told people to stay inside. Well, I'm now reading, I don't know numbers, and numbers lie anyway. They're claiming that 60-something% of the people who came down with this virus got it from staying indoors. If you're outdoors, I'm telling you all, A, use common sense. If you see something that gets inside your body and you think it's an infection, stay away from it. But don't run from it. Don't hide. You need to go outside. Vitamin C and vitamin D will kill that virus. It can't live with that. It has to get inside you. And inside you, it lives in that darkness. There is one thing you can do. Make sure you have plenty of vitamins inside you. Please do. And understand that the world we live in, where we create Monsanto-type foods, genetically modified biologically and chemical foods, changes the composition of the balance of Earth. New viruses will come, and they will look to feed. That's what a virus does. It feeds. My friends, we feed. That's all we do. And while we're feeding, we're also here to learn and discover love, and we're here to control ourselves so we can make sure everyone can live in their community, their local tribe, and share life. Life is love. Love is life. That's the ticket. And you need to exercise and you need to bring your energy levels up, which is why I taught you Kundalini. You sit there and you start doing those exercises. Like if you when you wake up in the morning and if you're parallel, just pick your head up 6 inches, pick your feet up 6 inches, breathe out by pulling your stomach out like a newborn baby and pump it. Just do it for 60 seconds. You need to invigorate your body because you're waking out of a deep sleep. You're going to come out muggy. You need to, boom, let's go. And when you go on a diet, don't listen to these fools that tell you not to eat breakfast. Just have something light because you need your metabolism to start working. You need your engine to go, go, go. We're here to move around. We're here to enjoy each other. And we're here to use common sense. And people who think that they could get infected because they have this or that, use your common sense. Stay in, stay away. But don't lock yourself in, because you'll keep breathing the air that you're trying to avoid. And saying that these viruses, again, they look for herd immunity. If they kill all the hosts, they're dead too. They will look for the herd immunity. And I just wish everyone here listening love. I wish you peace, and I pray for your family and your health.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephen, so much. And yeah, just so grateful. And I'm so grateful that we have someone like you to investigate and research and to take a look at so many things, including now this virus thing. And so, yeah.
Let me make you laugh with your audience. So I didn't know what to put in the movie. It's the soundtrack, right? My Russian movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, what could I put there? What could I put there? So I have a friend. I used to have crystal court bowls. I was in business with those people that sell them, the singing bowls that you hit.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah,
so I have albums on iTunes that we did. Uh-huh. So my friend Steve, I said, what are you doing now? He says, I'm recording plants. I'm like, how are you recording plants? And he said to me, well, I'm miking the plants and they can hear lower frequencies. And I'm like, I get it. Because all us humans can hear frequencies that we call A through G. And each frequency has 7 steps between it. So there's 49 tones. And then there's sharp and not sharp. So that's 98. But you can't hear under A. But the insects can. Mm-hmm. The insects know where to go. They know which plant's calling them saying, please come here and have some of my milk and honey. Anyway, he mic'd it. And there was noises, as we're saying. And what he did is he put the noises on his computer machine. And then he started programming it and playing it. The movie is plant music. And he had the plants sitting and watching this movie of absolute warfare. And they were making comments. They were making their frequency noises between themselves. It's really cool. It's something no one's ever done. I'm honored to bring this to Earth. Earthlings who don't believe anything except what they're told to believe. There's so much more. There's so much more than this. I'm telling you, just open your eyes and breathe in the truth. Speak to our founding fathers who are there with you forever and evermore. Speak to your higher self. And thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, everybody. So that's it for today. Again, grab all of his books. You know, he knows so much. He's got so many things to share. Colonization of Earth, The Making of Mankind, and your upcoming book again is what?
They're available everywhere. My name is Stephen, S-T-E-V-E-N, last name Machat, M-A-C-H-A-T, and they're available everywhere. The book that will be out before Memorial Day, it's called The Creation of Oz, from the altars of his Black Sabbath. And what I do is I tell you the truth. I tell you what I did because I was the fixer. All his insanity I fixed. And out of that insanity came the Prince of Darkness. And it's pretty dark. And I confess to my sins. I just thought it was fun that I could do it. Never did I realize that people would sit there worshiping at his altar. I may be the real fool. And I'm asking for forgiveness.
Love you, Stephen.
Love you too, and thanks.
All right, everybody. Well, you keep on tuning in here. We're going to keep bringing amazing stuff to you, and just share this podcast with everybody. Everybody needs to know this information. This man, you know, he is tuned in. He's not only getting this from research. He's getting this from the divine. He's channeling, he's tuning in, he's remote viewing, he's doing all these things as part of it. And you definitely want to be listening to Stephen. So anyway, so go check it all out online. You can find his books anywhere, and also at stephenemachat.com. And Stephen, again, thank you. And
thank you.
Look forward to having you back in the future for sure, 100%.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I look forward to traveling with you.
Me too. Me too. Can't wait to do the sacred tour. So we're going to
Yeah,
go right
yeah,
to
yeah.
the pyramids and all that stuff.
We can start in Greece in chapter 5 in my book.
Greece would be perfect. Perfect.
The story of Alexander.
Story of Alexander, and we'll talk more about why that matters so deeply in another episode. That'd be perfect. Yeah. And also for everybody listening, if you want to check out what I'm up to, go to yoursacredpurpose.com. You get a meditate and make money meditation that blows people away. People really love it. And you can also have the opportunity to meet with me. There's that little application form on the page there. And if you're ready to really rock, I want to talk with you. So everybody, keep on tuning in here, and we'll keep on showing up.
If I may just say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can attest to my interviewer's abilities because I wouldn't do this for anyone. He's aware. He's your coach. He'll tell you what's going on that you can't see as you run the paths of life. You're a good man, and I thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, thank you, everybody. Goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Good night.
You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.